Thank you. Mr. Pete Wishart.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure. As always, follow the Leader of the House, and our intention is very clear when it comes to this particular business motion. What's less clear, and perhaps you could clear this up for us, is that there are rumours in the press that the government may be tempted to support this bill as a means to try and progress some sort of extension. And maybe although she wasn't taking intervention, she could shake her head or nod whether that maybe is something that the government's thinking about. We're seeing a sitting still of that, so we can take our own conclusions from that, Mr. Speaker. But can I say I very much welcome today, again, as another great innovation and creative way of doing Parliament. Precedents are there, obviously, to be established, and again, we are doing that in this House. And I'm proud of this House today, the fact that we're actually being able to embark upon this particular journey. It is something new, and precedents are there to be created and established. What surprises me, and I have to say this again to honourable gentlemen, and it is nearly all honourable gentlemen today that's sitting across there, is that these are the great take-back controllers.
Yes,
and when this House is actually demonstrating that very thing, they're the ones that object to it most. I've got two, so I'll take both of them because I enjoy both of them. I'll take first and I'll come to you.
I am genuinely grateful to him for giving way, and I just ask him this simple question. He has always complained throughout this Parliament and the long time that he's been here that governments since the original Blair government that brought in the programme motions have cut and curtailed time for debate, and he thinks that's a reprehensible thing, and I agree with him. So how is it now that when a bill comes forward where its timetable so tight, he doesn't think that's an excellent precedent for government to do that again and again, and will he complain about that in future?
What attracts me to this particular motion and what we're doing today is that this Parliament is doing this for the first time, that Parliament is actually defining, creating and progressing a bill through this House. That is an exciting prospect. I thought the honourable gentleman would be so churlish as not to enjoy that as somebody who really does enjoy these particular events. I'll give way to the honourable gentleman.
I was intrigued by the reference by the honourable gentleman to take back control, because of course what actually happened was that the Referendum Act, by 6 to 1 in this House, gave the decision to the British people. That's what the vote was about, and they also voted incessantly and rightly for a whole series of enactments. So, in fact, the sovereignty of this Parliament has been preserved, but it was given to the people so that they could make the decision. Now they're trying to take it back again.
See, Mr. Speaker, I love this. This is really good stuff and entertaining. So, taking back control is qualified as to take back control as long as it's his control. And this is how these things become particular issues for the right honourable gentleman. Yes, I'll give way to the.
I'm very grateful to him for giving way, and I appreciate his words about taking back control and his passion for Parliament. But does he not accept that people watching this bill and what is going on in here today will just see this as another means to obfuscate and delay and kick the can down the road for what people expect us to be getting on with here, which is voting for a deal and leaving?
I'll say to the honourable lady, this is about the only thing and means that we've got to actually make progress in this House. We're actually going to get a bill through the House of Commons, hopefully later today, which will allow some sort of way forward for us so that we'll be able to make sure that there's a plan in order to take forward. Because if we don't, we are crashing out next Friday, and we have to make sure that doesn't happen. I'll give way to my honourable friend.
I thank my honourable friend for Perth and North Perthshire for giving way, and he's setting out a very good case. He's talking about precedents, and one of the welcome precedents that I'm sure we and others may look to is the fact that this may give the opportunity for some opposition parties to be able to progress bills through the House during opposition day time. Would you reflect on the opportunities that may arise as a result of that?
Well, absolutely, and I think my honourable friend makes a very good point. This does now present that precedent, and I'm hoping that all parties across the House will make use of that and ensure that bills are passed through during opposition days, because it is a way, and it is a new way of doing things which should be congratulated and looked at positively. And I'm just really so surprised that the take-back controllers can't see the opportunities are presented to this House to effectively take back control in this Parliament.
Exactly.
Can I say it's that doing this bill for the first time ever is really interesting. I have to say to the Right Honourable Lady, I think there is deficiencies in the bill. I called it earlier a bit of a dog's breakfast of a bill, but it's the only meal that's on the menu, Mr Speaker. So I think we have to take advantage and opportunities of what's been presented, because what it does do is to ensure that we don't leave next week without a deal. It attempts to ensure that there at least some sort of way forward in terms of trying to renegotiate with Europe. It will oblige the Prime Minister to come back and give updates to the progress that she's making. And I think it was the Right Honourable Member for West Dorset said that absolutely correctly, is that if we don't do this, we have to leave the Prime Minister to trust. And what we've seen from this government already is that they contemptuously ignore outcomes of this House repeatedly again and again. And all of a sudden, we're supposed to trust them in this process of doing what they say they're going to do when it comes to this. I'll give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
Thank you for giving way. He says we'll have to leave it as a matter of trust to the Prime Minister. The reality of this bill, if he'd actually bothered to read it, is it simply makes a request to her. She could completely ignore this bill. That is why this bill is so pointless, why it's an abuse of this House for to be using emergency legislation method, and the precedent which he acknowledges will be created will be visited most dearly and deeply across the opposition benches when they find themselves seeking time and they find a government that cites this precedent which they themselves have adopted as to why they should not have it.
That sounds like some sort of admission that they're on their way out and they're expected to change places. And God help us if that was actually the case. But there's lots of deficiencies in the bill which I'm quite happy to concede to the Honourable Gentleman. But what he presented isn't one of them. What the bill explicitly does is to mandate the Prime Minister to come back in order to ensure that there's a statement about the deal, any conversation she has with the EU. So I would suggest to the Honourable Gentleman perhaps read the bill before he intervenes yet again. But this is a day for precedent, Mr Speaker, isn't it? Because, it's another part of the breakthrough in the Brexit process. We've actually now got the Prime Minister sitting down exclusively with the Leader of the Opposition. And this idea to try and share Brexit with the Opposition, it was like a huge elephant trap that's been set for the Leader of the Opposition, which he's gone wandering in with his size 12 shoes on like some sort of hairy mammoth. But that's exactly what they're doing today. And it'll be fascinating. Today, Remainer meets Leaver across the table to discuss Brexit. A Remainer whose party is a bunch of Leavers and a Leaver whose party is a bunch of Remainers. And so this will be fascinating, and we're looking forward to the outcome of this particular meeting. But I think the whole House is going to be thoroughly entertained about what is the outcome of this particular thing. And for us on these benches, it looks a little bit like Better Together 2.0, the sequel. Here is Labour and Conservatives sitting down to conspire to take Scotland out of Europe against its will, and that's exactly what will be done. And that's what it looks very much like to those of us on these benches here today. But I wanted, for the last time, I'll give way to the Honourable Gentleman.
Views on the programme motion, which is what we're debating now.
It's actually a business motion, if I can gently correct the Honourable Gentleman. It's not a programme motion, and I am speaking to the business motion.
Pay attention, Tories.
I don't know who informs these Tories. I think they need the Whip's note passed round to them to ensure that they're actually asking the right questions, because a few of them have actually come very short today. But I always enjoy entertainment with the Right Honourable Gentleman and his colleagues. But we will support this business motion today. We know the government is going to oppose it. What's intriguing is what they do beyond that, because they very well may be supporting the Bowles motion. I might disappoint the Honourable Gentleman.
I'm extremely grateful, but I think the Honourable Gentleman's in danger of confusing the House. He ticked off my right honourable friend for calling it a business motion, saying a programme motion, saying it's a business motion. Now he seems to be going back in the other direction, so I'm not clear.
Talking about going in another direction, he's heading us back to the 18th century. And I think what we've missed amongst the proceedings today is a history lesson about the Tudors and the bare-bones backbones Parliament, and we've missed them today, and the history lesson, and maybe we'll get it later on. Yes, I said last time we'll give it.
I'm grateful to the Honourable Gentleman for giving way. He's made it very clear that he doesn't trust the Prime Minister, he doesn't trust the Leader of the Opposition. At the next available opportunity, will he give the people the chance to have their say and trust them?
Well, I've already learned from the conversation today that the Leader of the Opposition is not prepared to push this as an option, as is freedom of movement, which is an absolute and utter disgrace and a betrayal to everybody in Scotland. But we shall wait very carefully for the outcomes of today's motion. Mr Speaker, we will back this today. We will be backing the bill later on this afternoon too. We're intrigued to see what the government do, but I hope that this unusual bit of parliamentary procedure, this new precedent, will be enjoyed and appreciated by everybody across this House.